Annie from Mountain Crest Gardens here. Improper watering is one of the most common issues with succulent care. And if you've ever struggled with a succulent, watering was probably at least part of the equation. And it's tough because watering succulents can be quite different from how you might water other types of plants. But I'm going to break it down into just the 4 essentials. What a succulent looks like when it's ready for water, how to water it, what a succulent looks like when it shouldn't be watered, and all of the reasons why a strict watering schedule is not right for succulents. Succulents thrive with a soak and dry watering cycle. So that means you are going to water deeply, but only when your plant and your soil are completely dry. How do you know that? Well, for the soil, a good way to test if it's dry all the way down is to feel down at the drainage hole of your pot. You can stick a finger down in there or a popsicle stick or something, but really we want to make sure it's dry all the way down at the bottom. And over time, you might actually get a feel for how light your pot feels when it's completely dry. Now, if and only if the soil is dry, we're going to check and see if the plant is dry. And there are a couple signs of thirst, and it'll slowly progress as the plant gets drier. So one of the first signs you'll see is that the leaves start to feel less firm. They're going to be a little more flexible and bendable like this here. Now that's not a standard succulent leaf. You notice if I tried to do that on a leaf that is fully watered, if I pushed this any farther, it would snap. But a thirsty leaf has that sort of pliability to it. It's a little bit floppy. The next thing that you might see is light wrinkling. So as your succulent gets dry, it's going to show a little bit of thirsty wrinkles on it, like these two here. After that, you'll start to see some really dry, crispy leaves, like the ones on the end of this string of pearls here. And in other plants, they'll sort of pull their leaves inward, and that tightening of the rosette. Here on this Werthia, the dryness is paired with these dry brown leaf tips, and they're going to progress as it gets drier, and eventually that plant's going to lose its leaves. So this is extreme drought here. But fortunately, at any point in that drying process, all you need to do is water your succulent. Here's how. Succulents are native to climates that get very infrequent rainfall, but when it does rain, it pours. Now, mimicking that cycle in your own watering is going to really help your succulent thrive. To soak it, you can use a faucet, a hose, a watering can, but we want to give it a lot of water. I want to drench it deeply enough to fully saturate all the soil in there. So when I really drench it, there should be enough water in there that the excess is going to run out the drainage hole at the bottom of the pot. Now you notice I am not misting my succulent. This is a very common succulent myth that they want to be misted, and it's simply not true. They want to be fully saturated. The only exception is air plants. So if you get an air plant from Mountain Crest, knock yourself out, mist it all you want. But I am deeply drenching this, and you'll notice I'm watering on the soil there directly. I'm not watering on the leaves. If you do get any water on the leaves, it's not a big deal. You can just gently knock off any of those droplets. If you're watering indoor succulents, I highly recommend just bringing them over to your kitchen sink so that you can fully drench them like this and let them drain out. And once you've got that soil completely saturated, any excess has drained away, you can go ahead and put your plant in a sunny location with plenty of airflow, and that's going to help that soil dry out in the next couple days. As a side note, if you're watering a succulent that's in a container that doesn't have a drainage hole, which we do not recommend, but if you are, you're going to want to give it the volume of water that's about a quarter of the volume of the whole pot. And then you're definitely not going to water it again until you're seeing really clear signs of thirst in the leaves. Watering too frequently is one of the most common succulent mistakes. And I think the real skill in taking great care of succulents is knowing when to leave them dry. We're not going to water then if any of the leaves still feel really firm or perky, like this Sansevieria here. If the soil is at all damp still, no need to water. Additionally, if you start to see signs of rot. So rot's going to be pretty squishy, mushy leaves to it. You can see some of these are going really slimy. really extreme rot is going to start to be kind of a juicy, squishy mess. Things often can start to yellow and go translucent. This leaf in here is sort of doing that. This one here is showing a little bit of black speckling. So that's also an example of rot. So all of these succulents, if they're going to survive at all, really need to be kept dry. The other time when you're not going to water your succulents is right after you transplant. Those are going to need to be left dry for at least several days. In general, succulents are much more tolerant of underwatering than overwatering. And additionally, a dry succulent is a lot easier to fix and save than a rotting succulent. So for those reasons, whenever you're in doubt, err on the side of less frequent watering. You can remember that by when in doubt, wait it out, because those signs of thirst are only going to become clearer. Really strict watering schedules, like once a week, every week, tend not to work in the long run for succulents because there are just so many variables that affect how long they take to dry out. These are going to include things like what type of soil you're using. So if you have a really gritty, rocky, well-draining soil like this, that's going to dry out a lot faster than a soil with a lot more organic matter in it. Same thing with pot size. That's going to affect your drying time. A bigger pot is going to hold a greater volume of water and take longer to dry out than a real teensy tiny pot that can dry out quickly. And then the pot material is going to affect it as well. So some pots are this breathable clay terracotta, and that's going to dry out faster than, say, a glazed ceramic, a metal, plastic, or glass pot. Additionally, your climate is going to affect your drying time. If you're in a wet climate with a lot of humidity or precipitation, those plants are going to take longer to dry out. Seasonality is also going to affect your drying time. A lot of succulents are growing in the spring and summer, and that's when they dry out faster. But most succulents tend to slow down more in the winter and they take longer to dry out then. And the last variable is the age of your plant. A young succulent that's growing new roots is going to need a little bit more frequent water than a mature succulent that's already established. That's when it's really able to tolerate those long, extreme droughts. There are over 1,000 different types of succulents available at Mountain Crest Gardens, but whichever one you pick, don't forget the 3 rules of succulent watering. First, water deeply, but only when the soil is completely dry and the plant is showing signs of thirst. 2, water in response to your plant rather than forcing a really strict watering schedule on it. And 3, when in doubt, wait it out. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment or reach out to us over at mountaincrestgardens.com/contact.